If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Happy Friday, and welcome to the real estate edition of the Ron and Don Show. You know, every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we give you news, talk, sports, current topics, anything that we read with In Touch magazine. That's why we're here, because we are in touch. But what we'd like to do on Fridays, you know, we pay the bills around here wearing our aviator glasses and being real estate brokers, right? So anyway, we buy, sell, invest, and we sell the sound. A lot of our listeners that have listened to us over the last 30 years on radio, they live all over the sound. So maybe you heard us on The Buzz, you heard us on KJR, and certainly on Cairo for almost 15 years, and you've decided to hire us to help you on your real estate journey. And a lot of times, we're helping your parents on their real estate journey. So wherever you're at on that journey, we will meet you. And sometimes that journey can be very, very difficult. It can be very, very emotional. And for some people, Ron, it's their worst day, especially if they have lost a parent. They call us in. Sometimes parents, towards the end of their life, they start collecting things, right? And then medically, it's hard because you might walk in a room where a medical bed was. There was home hospice. We see a lot of this. We're used to it. And I have to say, we're always very touched when people invite us in. We have a house that is up for sale right now where mom and dad died in this particular house. There's a lot of work to do in this house. We spent months there. And I got very teary-eyed when I walked in the house the other day, and the son came by who had hired us to kind of transform this house. He was out of gas. He had spent a lot of time there working on the house, going through mom and dad's stuff. And it was really cool to watch him walk through the house. He came by in an open house and went, wow, this thing is really transformed. And he said some really kind things to us, and mostly about me, but a few things about you, and then other things about Matt that I'm not going to go into right now. But anyway, that always that's a thrill for us, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting with people because, you know, especially if it's the house you grew up in, you never think of the house you grew up in that's going to eventually become your nest egg. And I think most people, when they think of their parents, are thinking it's their house. Like, this is my mom and dad's house. And in a sense, you want them to reap the benefits of the house. We have met people that are just sort of waiting for their inheritance. And that always gets a little tricky.
And we've met people that have been abused in that house, and they're like, here's the key. But the majority of people, they've been in that house, they wrestle with their brother, they watch 3 channels.
Yeah,
they were there when they got their first HBO cable box. And
so there's this thing of going, you have to really, there's a process from taking something from a home that is filled with the memories attached to your childhood or whatever phase of your life you are in this building, to transforming that into an asset, because that's what it is. And that journey is different for every person, because yes, it is a place where all your memories happen. And at the same time, it is an asset.
Yep.
It's the only asset class that is that. Mm-hmm. So if you buy a stock or a bond, or you're in a mutual fund, it's just different. You can be very dispassionate about those because it's numbers on a screen. You bought it for this, you're selling it for that. There's not, maybe there are people where your dad gave you some stocks of a company and you can have some emotional ties to that investment. But real estate is very, very different in that regard. And so helping with that journey of acknowledging the emotions and also recognizing the asset class, this is why I think it'll be difficult for AI to ever really be a good broker. I think that AI eventually could get contracts down. And I think AI could help you go, hey, did you think about this, and this when crafting an offer? Or, hey, there might be legal jeopardy with this part of a transaction. I think AI will get there. I don't think it will necessarily. It'll be a long time for it to get to the place where someone's like, "Hey, I have a lot of emotional and familial situation baggage going on with this house, and we need to unpack that before we can sell it." We have another client we've been working with for a couple of years now, where there's one sibling out of all the siblings that just interacts differently with the family home, and so. They're not even the executor of the estate. They're just a family member. And so everything is on pause for this one sibling. And so how does the family and the brothers and the sisters and your ages and how you related to mom and dad, there's all kinds of things that are interacting with that family that are all adults. They're all people that have had whole lives and whole careers, and yet in some ways they're still these kids that are going, how do we interact with each other? How do we navigate this? And in some of that stuff, you don't have the answer until you know the question.
Yeah.
And it's hard to process.
Yeah. And usually kids are real thoughtful. We walked into a house the other day that we had to clear, and there had been a suicide in this house. What was really upsetting is I had been in that house before the family members got to the house, and the house was relatively intact. And then some of the family members and some of the friends came into the house, basically invited to take whatever they wanted if there was something important to them, and they ransacked the house. Houses get ransacked usually when you have kind of an estate sale. You expect that. I didn't expect this from family and friends, and I was sick to my gut when I walked through there and I saw that. So it's really interesting to see the way that people react to life, the way they react to death, the way they react to their parents. Other people, it's a sanctuary, like you're saying, Ron, and they walk in there and all these things bring them comfort. If you listen to Anderson Cooper, and he talks about, he has a podcast that he does on grief called Is That All There Is? And he had a very famous mom, and he was able to kind of, she lived in two different apartments. One is where she lived, and the other is where her art studio is. You may have heard of her, Gloria Vanderbilt. And he had changed his last name to his father's name because he wanted to be taken. He didn't want to be Anderson Vanderbilt, and then nobody ever took him seriously as a journalist. But the first time the podcast starts, you hear the clinking at the door. He's using the key. He's opening up the door, and he's reacting to all her things that are in there. He initially hung on to all her things because it brought him comfort, and then he realized he was going to have to start going through those things. And so for some people, that can be the hardest.
It's extremely hard, and there's no right or wrong answer. And usually, for us, the thing that is interesting is immediately when we do a Rondon sit down with someone in this situation, we always offer, and you usually do the offer, you say, hey, when you're ready, give me the key and we'll get you to the finish line. Some people, they nod their head and then they still need to go through all the cycles. Like some people feel like they have to touch every piece of paper, they have to touch every object, they have to go through every photo album, they have to go through every drawer.
They're cycling through grief.
They're cycling through it. Other people go through that process a lot faster. It's always interesting to me that typically there's always the one sibling that lives out of state and just sort of says, let me know when it's done. And then there's usually the other sibling that gets handed the mantle.
It's holding all the water. Yeah.
And that, have we ever done one where there's been multiple siblings that help carry the load? I don't know if we've ever had that. It's usually one person has to step up and carry the load.
We've dealt with two brothers this week that cleared out mom's house. They both carried the load.
That's true.
They both did a great job. I'm proud of both those brothers. It took them a long time to do it, almost a year, but they did it. I think they honored their mom. The cool thing is they didn't want the house torn down. There were builders that wanted to buy it. We found a way to sell it to someone that's not even going to flip it. They're going to fix it and live in it, and that was part of their decision as far as selling the home.
I will say this though: my wish for people that listen to the Ron and Don show is that you encourage your mom and dad or whoever the person is to do that process while they're still alive. Take that asset that you have, sell it, have these conversations and these money talks while you're still around. Get into a position where you have professionals around you that can help you with that stage of your life. And start to go through this earlier would be my only piece of advice.
And I see usually men die 7 years before their spouse. And a lot of times they know that they're dying. They know they have prostate cancer. I have a friend right now that's dying of prostate cancer. He's in his 80s. You should see all the steps he's taking. And his wife, I think, is 9 years younger than him. She's going to be around a long time. He is doing really thoughtful things right now. And you have to be brave to do it. He's doing very thoughtful, brave things right now because he just feels like, hey, I'm going to go first here, and I want her to have a great life. She may have another partner. She may travel. I want her to live in a great home. I don't want her to be saddled with all my stuff. In fact, every once in a while, he'll give me some of his stuff. He called me yesterday, and he said, what can we do with these things? He had a bike last year that we gave to the Major Taylor Project. We gave to Ed Ewing, a beautiful bike that he had bought in Italy. So while you still have your brains about you, most of your stuff other people don't want, and usually we're hanging on to it because we think our kids want it, and they don't. And what's really sad is when you see people go through and take all the family pictures, and they just take them to the dump, and they throw them right in the dump. So it's important to have a say. And a lot of times we have a say when we do our will, or we have a say if we decide that we're going to put our wealth in a trust, whatever that is. But just think about, I think about it constantly, the stuff I have. Does this serve me right now? Does it serve my son? Is there something I can do the cool thing is you don't have to go out and buy a new boat or a new jet ski or it's so easy to rent anything. And the gear that you can rent to go do stuff, it's as nice as the gear that you can go out and buy, and it's not sitting on the side of your house or in the garage or up at the cabin depreciating. You can take that money, stick it in a bank, continue to grow. If that's want to help your folks, and I know men don't mean to do it, but we see it time and time again, where the kids have left, dad dies in that house, hospice care, and then it's the wife or the partner that is left behind. And I think of this one gentleman that we helped over on the east side. He had a huge train collection over there. He had all these hobbies, and all his hobbies still just filled the house. And he was brilliant. He worked at Boeing, but he knew when his wife had died first, he knew his life was winding down in the last 2 years of his life, and he would have been capable of having people come in and begin to dismantle some of those things. He didn't do any of that, and it left it to the daughter, and the daughter was very, very overwhelmed by it. So we met her on her journey. We took the key, and we said, we'll take it from here, and the things that can go to Goodwill go. The things that can go to use or reuse, like in Ballard, they go. And then the things that are going to go to the dump end up going to the dump as well. Everybody wants to think that all their stuff goes to Goodwill and it's out there helping people. Goodwill doesn't take most of your stuff. They'll
That's
sit there
correct.
and go, I'll take that. No, no, no. Yes, no, no. No.
So we've done a lot of these deals. We have a lot of experience with it. It is a complicated real estate transaction. And if you see this on the tracks ahead of you for your family, like let's get together and start planning now.
Yeah, and if you wonder where mom and dad are getting their money from, you're like, I didn't know they had this much money. They may have put a reverse mortgage on the house and didn't tell you, and that reverse mortgage can be devastating. So the interest rates on those are very high. Sometimes they make sense, but I wouldn't always listen to Tom Selleck. I guarantee you he doesn't have a reverse mortgage on his house. So, hey, you guys, thanks for listening to the Ron and Don Show. Thanks for letting us talk about something that is very, very sensitive, right? It's very sensitive. And we all should be thinking about, in our culture sometimes we don't want to talk about death. when you talk about death is when you can really start living your life, because you realize how important the minutes and the moments are and the memories that you are making. It puts you in a place of gratitude. It puts you in a place of empathy, and it puts you in a place of appreciation, right? We sure do appreciate you for listening to the Ron and Don Show, for allowing us to be your brokers, your friends, your broadcasters, and also allowing us really into your homes. And we've been in a lot of your homes now in very different situations, and a lot of times it's very sensitive. And so that's why we talk in very broad terms. And a lot of the pictures that we take when we're fixing a property, we would never share publicly, but some of the pictures that we have to take to show our contractors can be astounding. And sometimes it can be really sad. So anyway, anything else before we go today?
No, reach out to us, Ron at ronandon.com, ronandonsitdown.com.
Yeah. Thanks to Matt, Grace, my son, Charlie the dog. He's Ron, I'm Don. We're all executive producers of the Ron and Don Show. It's actually just Charlie the dog. So if you need us, reach out, ronandonsitdown.com. We'll send you our buyer's playbook and our seller's playbook. In the meantime, you keep your head up and your shoulders back. And don't forget, we've been listening to the Ron and Don Show only on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.